Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm the Tassie Wargamer, or that Tassie Wargamer, and my usual gaming buddy, John, who I normally play regular games with, or play regular games every Sunday, couldn't play yesterday, so hence no gaming video. So I thought I want to try to keep the videos regular, so what better way to take some time to look at how I got into wargaming and some of the points along my wargaming hobby lifeline that were reasonably prominent. So to start with, how did I get into wargaming? Well, back in the 1970s, I had lots of older brothers, 4 older brothers, 2 sisters, and the 2 older brothers closer to me in age. One of them was still 7 years apart, so I was a lot younger child. They used to spend their pocket money buying, I think it was 1/32 and 1/72 Airfix miniatures. A lot of World War II, but also everything from ancients through to Napoleonics. And I used to just salivate over. They'd bring them home and I was allowed to maybe play with them a little bit. Not wargaming, just, setting them up and playing with them. However, my brothers soon grew out of them. So luckily for me, they left them to me. So all of a sudden I had this pretty good collection of miniatures that I would then add to, either buying new or going to a swap meet car boot sale and buying bags of second-hand stuff. I would then either set them up on the carpet or the table and just basically move them around using my imagination to fight these wars. Occasionally my brother Chris would come out the back and we'd set up all of the larger stuff, the 130, I think it's 1/32. We'd set them up in the garden and use a thing over here in Australia called a honky nut, which is the dried fruit off any gum tree, but for mine it was a jarrah tree which grows in Western Australia, and we would then take in turns to throw the gum nuts or the honky nuts at each other's soldiers to knock them over, and if they knocked over they were dead. So that was my first introduction to wargaming, if you like. From there, obviously the first book wasn't actually a book. It was the Airfix catalogue. It wasn't even a full catalogue, it was just the pages of mainly the World War II stuff, and I pored over that every day. I just sat there looking at what I could buy, what I'd love to have. And of course, back in the 70s, it wasn't a case of getting on the internet and buying them, it was trying to find them, and in Australia, not all of that stuff was available, but I kept dreaming. I would use those up until early teens, and I discovered this book. I remember walking through Myers in Carrinup in Western Australia and saw this book. It hasn't got a price on it anymore, but it was dirt cheap. It was, I don't know, $2 or something. It was on special, otherwise I couldn't have afforded it. But I remember seeing this and all I spotted was the miniatures on the bottom, on the page, and a guide to wargaming. As you can see, compiled and edited by Bruce Quarry. And I went, well, I love toy soldiers. Look, they've been painted. And what is this wargaming? I'd heard of it before. I wasn't totally alien to it. Oh, there we go. Down from $9.95 to $3. So I flipped open the pages and just saw these mostly coloured, or mostly black and white, beautiful images of soldiers massed on the table. So I bought it and soon realised that there was more to toy soldiers than moving them around with your imagination. Unfortunately, this book wasn't the easiest introduction, even though it's an introduction to wargaming or guide to wargaming. It really had it sort of had basic, some basic things on rules, but I just didn't understand how to actually apply them. It had sequence of play, writing orders. I had no idea, and more importantly, I had no one to play with. Back then, there was no sort of easy way to find a club or other players. So, bought this, poured over it, and that was really it. I loved the book, but didn't really come to any use other than I would read about the different. It sort of introduced me to the different eras. Hadn't really heard much about the Crimea War at that age, and obviously then 7 Years' War. I thought, why would anyone game that? It didn't look too appealing, and obviously in the future it would. So when I got a little bit older, I could go into the city, into Perth. I went into a hobby shop one day. A friend introduced me to a place called Simulations and Kite City, and I was there one day, and I saw this book here, Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Wasn't cheap, $71, and that back in the 80s, that was a ridiculous price. 80s, late 80s it would have been, I'm pretty sure. Maybe early 90s actually. No, it would have been late 80s. Lots of photos, but more importantly, some amazing colour photographs. So between my early teens and my late 30s, I set about collecting and painting Warhammer miniatures. I think nothing of spending days just painting one miniature, and spending weeks painting just one unit. I collected dwarves, greenskins, and Empire. Again, had no one to play with. I sort of found a gaming group in Perth on the internet years later when I was in my 30s. Went along, wasn't really welcoming, and as a result, I'd never feel I wasn't invited to partake and have a go. It was just a case of standing there feeling left out. So I never went back. So I continued just with my painting and dreaming about using them, but not really getting into it, not having anyone who really was interested in having a game. This book I came upon along the way, Heroes for Wargames. Again, not a cheap one, $22.95, but I first opened it and it was actually showing some of the amazing work by especially John Blanche. I mean, I've loved his work ever since I bought this book. But some amazing work. Some would call it old school painting now, but it's ridiculous. Can't really see too much in there, but so this book was just another one that's quite important in my travels. I realised, wow, I could really, there really is a fine art to this stuff rather than just painting toy soldiers. So I ended up spending a lot more time really trying to hone my painting. And at the time, I still got some really lovely dwarves that I take a lot of pride in that I painted up well. However, they've never been put onto the table. From there, when I was in Perth, I can't remember how I came about, but I got into Flames of War. Well, when I say got into Flames of War, I saw this in a hobby shop. I think I'd probably just been recently watched probably Saving Private Ryan and also Band of Brothers, which is probably my favourite TV show of all time. So I bought the starter pack of Flames of War, bought it, painted up all the miniatures, used the introductions to move the tanks around. Still couldn't find anyone to play with, so basically the miniatures or the tanks just sat there not doing an awful lot. But this and the Warhammer book were the first ones that I realised I don't just love wargaming, I love collecting wargaming books. Never used, but rarely used this, but it's just the quality of the books. And if you love reading history, okay, there are history books out there, but these are fantastic for just getting a really quick rundown for this one, of World War II, obviously. So it gives you a really good introduction to a war. Lots of lovely pictures, great miniatures throughout, all in colour this time, and talks about how to set up your units, picking a force, how to have battles, how to set up scenarios. And I loved it. So I hadn't really used it. Again, I never really got into Flames of War. I didn't have anyone to play with over there. By then the internet was around, and I don't know, I've always been a bit of an introvert and never sort of made friends too easily, or not friends, never made contact too easily, so never really got into playing Flames of War. However, that sort of started me off on my journey of, well, sometimes it's just nice to collect a book. So that one there is what I'd call my collector book. Probably never will play Flames of War. Well, hopefully I will, but I don't know. But certainly one of my favourite collecting books. I moved to Tasmania in 2010, brought everything with me, still did a bit of painting. Then in about 2015, I saw the Vikings series on TV. Loved it. and thought I would maybe find some Viking miniatures to paint, and came across a new rule set at the time. I think it was reasonably new at the time, Saga. So I wanted to play, couldn't find, well, I saw some place online. Also found that there was a local seller here in southern Tasmania who not only had the books but also sold a range of miniatures. So I phoned the guy up thinking he was a shop, which he was, but his shop was actually from the basement of his, or not basement, the garage of his home. So he said best time to come round is on Sunday, which I thought was odd. He said, we've got a few guys there gaming, you can always come and throw some dice. So Saga have played. It's what got me into the scene over here. So I went round to this guy, Barry, his place, Van Diemen Miniatures, on a Sunday. Met a few of the blokes there, Barry included, who's an amazing bloke. Loves his wargaming. I've never met anyone so into their wargaming. But they weren't playing Saga. And there goes my light, check that out. They were playing this little bit Muskets and Tomahawks. So I'm going to get into the rest of the game, the rules that I play at the moment, but this is the game that I first actually threw dice and played a game with other people. I walked in, met the guys, and they said, do you roll some dice? I said, oh, no, it's okay, I'm only here for Saga. And they said, no. Barry said, no, come on, join in. So I think I was given a unit of, I don't know, skirmishers or maybe Indians, and played the game, and God, it felt so foreign in a way. Got used to it. They invited me back the following week. Went back, played more Muskets and Tomahawks, I think. And then from there, what did we get into? Oh, played some Saga. Played a few different rule sets, mainly Muskets and Tomahawks, but got into my favourite rule set, which is Sharp Practice. And you've probably seen my recent videos. I play Sharp Practice a lot. So Muskets and Tomahawks was the first one. I'd still be playing it. I don't know why we ended up just shuffling through. Oh, we played Blood and Plunder for a while. I played others, but Sharp Practice is the rule set. Is now my, if I want to enjoy a game of miniatures, of wargaming, this is the rules that we normally play in French-Indian War. Now, Barry ended up moving away, unfortunately, up to the top of Tasmania, so we don't see him too often. So one of the guys I met there, John, we've now become regular gamers with each other, meeting up at Good Games. So some of the other games I do play, Chain of Command. We did play regular Barry's. We're in a bit of conundrum at the moment. I've got a 28mm US Airborne, and John has only got 20mm British and clicked in German. But he looks like soon John will have both British and German. So we'll probably be using 20mm. I'm also painting up 28mm Fallschirmjäger very slowly. So eventually we can play in both 28 and 20mm. The other one we play is What a Tanker. Yeah, another Two Fat Lardies one. This is a fantastic, played in 28. Again, once Barry left, John and I started playing 20mm because John had an amazing collection of 20mm stuff from his youth that he'd never really got around to using, and we've got those to use, so we bring them to the table and we have a great game of 20mm using What a Tanker. Another great rule set. Most recently, I bought Force on Force. You've probably seen that in a previous video. So I'm running out of room here. Force on Force. I looked through it, played a couple of practice games against myself. I'm not sure if I really enjoy it. So what I'm now looking at is trying to track down a workaround, if you like, for Chain of Command in modern. A few people have come out with some pretty decent ones, so I'm just looking through at the moment, and hopefully that then will allow me to use my 20mm moderns using Chain of Command, because I really love the way Two Fat Lardies create their rule sets. Anyway, my video's about to run out, 15 minutes up, so I shall make another video shortly. Hope you've enjoyed it.